The Lord saith, Vengeance is mine. Be not wise in your own conceits. To no man render evil for evil, providing good things not only in the sight of God, but also in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much as is in you, have peace with all men. Revenge not yourselves, my dearly beloved, but give place unto wrath. For it is written, Revenge is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. But if thy enemy be hungry, give him to eat. If he thirst, give him to drink. For doing this thou shalt heap coals of fire upon his head. Be not overcome by evil, but overcome evil by good. Tremendously brave, the Christian. Those words are shattering. They say that you don't have to be like this. Life doesn't have to be like this. Christianity must be everything that was claimed of it. People don't remember. Well, no doubt there are some people these days who, when they hear these words, will tell themselves to be good. They will justify it mentally. They will plaster another advertising smile on their face, and they will say that they're Christians. Such a madness our world lives in. That's not what's meant. These words hurt. They hurt inside. If you hear them. Now, I was watching The Operation of the Many Eyes, and if you have something negative inside of you, you can train yourself to observe it and guard against it. If you're angry, you can train yourself to monitor it, and if you get angry, then there'll be a voice in your head that'll say, don't be angry. And so instead of the anger alone, you have a sort of companion that you have trained that will monitor it and release it. But that is not the real answer. But now you've made more of a mess in there. In fact, the false self is constructed by many different voices in long chains, all telling each other things. One person is angry, the next person says don't be angry, the next person says don't raise your voice, the next person says everybody smile, and you have this chain of voices inside of you, and that's the false self. And you know, if you look at politics, all these politicians are doing exactly the same thing. They are the false self outside of us, you know. And Ouspensky's work is very much like that. It's a question of mental justification and telling yourself not to do this, not to do that. That's why those kind of people, they always talk with puffed out chests. That image they're trying to portray is part of this this false self, this false shimmering. They're so desperately trying to convince each other and keep that chain going. Nobody must break the chain. You see, when you hear politicians say that we've all got to stand together, it means that the falseness has to keep going and nobody must dare to tell the truth about President Zelensky. Because when you have been lying for so long, then to open it up will feel very painful. All your delusions just crash on the ground and it hurts. You see people in these spiritual centers having total nervous breakdowns, total lying on the floor and just falling apart. That's what's happening to them. They've come to the end of the lies and the truth is coming out and it hurts. So much of our energy is invested in the lying, in the hiding. It becomes very difficult to return. And if you have been going down this road for 20, 30, 40 years, well, the longer you've been doing it, the more frightened you will be. And it is good then to have somebody to hold your hand and to slowly walk you out. Because it's not easy. So in terms of those negative emotions, people don't like to feel emotions, like I say, because they can take you straight to your heart, straight to the truth. It's easier just to crush them all down. Then you can stay in the safety of your little head. The false self, you see, if you work with negative emotions the way Ouspensky wishes to work with them, by observing them and mentally stopping them somehow. Often if you do that, all you're doing is tensing up a part of your body, you don't even notice it. So you're not really stopping anything, you're just creating a fiction. That's another thing about the false self. It'll talk in a very high-minded way about not being false, but it will be being false. Anyway, all those things are very confusing, no doubt, very confusing. One good idea then is to try many different things, because that will give you a perspective that'll make things more sure. Because it is very confusing. For instance, if you have violent emotions, one thing you can do, you can observe them for sure, but you can also become them. Why don't you allow yourself to actually, for the first time, inflate those emotions inside of you and dare to be them? Wear the mask of that particular demon, or whatever it is. What about your sadness? What about your anxiety? do you ever really allow yourself to go into them? And not just for a few seconds, I mean to really become them. And then you can step out of them. So in that way you learn about yourself. You see, if somebody has a so-called negative emotion, they're feeling something, there's an energetic movement, then they judge it, then they observe it, then they decouple themselves. So they actually prevent any real knowledge. All they're doing is saying no to this type of energy inside of you. I think human beings more than anything need to not become in touch with their feelings, but to develop them in a very profound way, which requires special methods. I've got the autobiography, the authorized autobiography of Peter Sellers here, and there's a strange story in the prologue which I think I will read out because I don't think I can quite remember it. But it, as I read this out, it reminded me of the tug of war that the many eyes play inside of us, and how painful it is really to live inside this life. And so this is from the prologue of Peter Sellers' authorized biography. It's called The Teaching of the Buddha. It's called The Teaching of the Buddha. I'll read it out. Once upon a time, a man was traveling alone. He came to a vacant house towards the evening and decided to spend the night there. About midnight, a demon brought in a corpse and left it on the floor. Shortly, another demon appeared and claimed the corpse as his, and they quarreled over it. Then the first demon said it was useless to argue about it further and proposed to refer it to a judge to decide the possessor. The other demon agreed to this, and seeing the man cowering in the corner, asked him to decide the ownership. The man was terribly frightened, for he well knew that whatever decision he might make would anger the demon that lost, and that the losing demon would seek revenge and kill him. But he decided to tell truthfully just what he had witnessed. As he expected, this angered the second demon, who grabbed one of the man's arms and tore it off, but the first demon replaced the arm with one taken from the corpse. The angry demon tore away the man's other arm, but the first demon replaced that with the arm of the corpse. And so it went on until both arms, both legs, the head and the body had been successively torn away and replaced with the corresponding parts of the corpse. Then the two demons, seeing the parts of the man scattered about on the floor, picked them up and devoured them and went away chuckling. The man who had taken refuge in the deserted house was very much upset by his misfortunes. The parts of his body which the demons had eaten were the parts his parents had given him, and the parts that he now had belonged to the corpse. Who was he, anyway? Realizing all the facts, he was unable to figure it out, and becoming crazy, he wandered out of the house. Coming to a temple, he went in and told his troubles to the monks. People could see in his story the true meaning of selflessness.